So being unhappy with the Silverstone SG10, the first step with the rebuild was to look for a new case. I settled on the Corsair 380T. It's a Mini-ITX case. It will not support a micro ATX or any other larger motherboard. Even though it is a Mini-ITX case, it's slightly larger than the Silverstone SG10 in every direction. On the vertical, that's primarily here because of the carrying handle. On the front, it has a spring-loaded retention mesh here for dust. It comes with a fan installed there. There is another fan here in the back. On the sides, you can see the sides are fully meshed with a little bit of an acrylic window at the top on both sides. And then there is also mesh on the bottom. There you can see at the back for the power supply intake, a little bit of a dust filter. So the case is slightly larger. Obviously it's going to have good airflow, having mesh on basically every side, or actually every side except maybe the top here. Access to the case is through these latches here. Comes open and it just comes right out. When I showed this to the kids, each of them oohed and awed and thought it was really cool, having the handle and having the sides that come off so easy and basically being able to see through all the way around. On the front, you've got an on and off button, which it calls start and stop, reset, headphones, and microphone to USB 3.0, and then also a button here for fan speed, which is pretty cool. So from the very front, you can control 3 different levels of fan speed, which would also impact or help control your noise. So I'm excited about this case. We're going to start installing. We'll look at the rest of the components that I've selected here. And thanks for going along for the ride. Component selection. Realistically, for this type of build with an APU in an ITX enclosure, there's not going to be a lot of components. Here is the motherboard. It is the ASROCK FM2 A88X ITX Plus. So all of that means it's from ASROCK. It has an FM2 socket with which I have an AMD APU A10-7850 Kaveri installed, and it's running the A88X chipset. So it has VGA and DVI out, 2 USB out here, an HDMI out and an HDMI in, a couple more USBs, some USB 3, networking, external SATA, and then your analog audio. So it's a very small, compact motherboard, as you would expect, with a ITX form factor here. I have 2 sticks of G.Skill Sniper RAM already installed. These are DDR3 PC2400. One cool thing about the retention clip for the cooler is when you want to swap it out, or if you do, there's no screws. There's these little plastic retaining clips here. There's a center section that you can push through. I can catch that with my fingernail. But you can push through, and then it pops up here on the inside. And once you snap that up, you can see there, you do both of them, then you can take it off. So if you do choose to put in something other than a stock cooler or a cooler that attaches to the stock attachments here, you don't have to worry about finding screws, keeping your screws, or losing them, because a little retaining clip there is all included. So nice cool feature there. This motherboard also offers Wi-Fi and a few other features. I have a hardwired Ethernet connection, so I won't be taking advantage of that. For cooling, I will be using this Noctua passive cooler. I don't quite remember the exact model number. I'll look it up and add it in the description. It did come with a fan originally on top, but with the APU, that's not quite needed. AMD is at some point going to send one of the newer Kaveri APUs that they have, that they just released this last year, that are at a slightly higher clock frequency. I might try some active cooling, or maybe even a closed loop water cool on that. But for right now, We have passive cooling here, so there's no noise. For media, I have a SanDisk Extreme 240 gigabyte SSD. This came out of the rig that I'm rebuilding. Still has the Windows 8 build on here. Hopefully I can just swap out motherboard drivers and be good. So here I want to talk about the PSU. This is a Corsair RM650. It's a fully modular power supply. It uses thin, compact, flat cabling, so you can really tuck things away easily and get a nice, neat look and good airflow. 650 watts might seem like a bit of overkill for an APU build, and for max power draw it certainly is. However, the RM line at up to 40% of full load is 0 RPM. The fan looks like this, completely static while it's fully running. So 40% of 650 watts is 260 watts. So at that point, with an APU build, I'm running a passive cooler at this point on the APU. That produces no noise. The PSU will produce no noise. And with low noise fans, which Corsair offers a wide range of quiet edition fans, you could have an extremely quiet rig just based on the APU, or with an additional GPU added. That GPU itself would add noise, but it would potentially be the only really noticeable noise in the build. When you're looking at an AMD A10-7850K, I did some benchmarking a year or more ago when I put the first rig together and never got around to publishing it. The unit under full load, with the GPU overclocked to 1 gigahertz, only pulled 115 watts during benchmarking. I looked at Guild Wars, Rocksmith, Dirt Showdown, Torchlight 2, a number of titles that I thought were geared towards this sort of living room PC that I was building for my kids, but it never broke past 120 watts, so it would have been completely silent. Even adding an additional GPU, and for a while I had an R9 270 in there, benchmarking that with some AAA titles only brought the full system load to 195 watts. So we're still well under the 260 watt threshold of 0 RPM. Upping the GPU quotient a little bit, this is a Club 3D R9 285. This is only a 190 watt card. The R9 270 is a 150 watt card. So if I add 40 watts full TDP to the 195 that I measured before, you could have an APU based system with an R9 285 and only be pulling 235, 240 watts, still with 20 watts to spare under that 260 watt threshold. So a really cool power supply here for a quiet build. If you're not going to add an additional GPU, you could step down to the 550 or maybe even the 450 if the math worked out. I haven't done it in my head. And have a 0 RPM PSU.